At the time of Alexander VI's papacy, Italy was ruled by several types of government: territorial overlords called signori, marquises, counts appointed by regional bishops or the German emperor, dukes, princes, and kings, as in the case of Naples. The powerful and wealthy republics of Venice and Florence were oligarchical republics ruled by the doge, military duke, and the signoria, council, respectively. Some princes were technically papal or imperial vassals, often hereditary rulers who received the right, were invested, to own and inherit immovable property and revenue. They owned their lands under two major conditions: 1. They must send annual tribute to the grantor, and 2. They must defend and protect the interest of the grantor. These interests were sometimes circumvented or abandoned depending on the balance of power in Europe and among the Italian states. The Kingdom of Italy, when it was a satellite of the Holy Roman Empire under Frederick I, Barbarossa, was ruled by imperial vassals who held northern Italian lands in fief for the Holy Roman Emperor. Gradual changes in the makeup of the Holy Roman Empire led to the deterioration of its control in much of northern Italy and Sicily. Some of these lords and princes gradually asserted their authority and maintained their independence from the empire. At the same time, they were alternately free, papal, and conquered realms until the Italian Wars, 1494–1550s, and later unification of Italy, 1859. In 1492, many important cities in Renaissance Italy were ruled by hereditary noble families, elites in control of independent communes, republics, and former imperial fiefs that were at war with one another throughout of the 13th and 14th centuries. The borders of 1492 Italy were continually being shaped by some of these powerful ruling dynasties. House of Este. Visconti Sforza coat of arms. The House of Medici. Coat of arms, Gonzaga. The House of Este. Dukes of Ferrara. The House of Sforza. Dukes of Milan. The House of Medici. Citizens of Florence. The House of Gonzaga. Marquises of Mantua. The House of Orsini. Montefeltro family coat of arms. The House of Aragon, Naples. The House of Colonna. The House of Orsini. Lords of Bracciano. The House of Montefeltro. Dukes of Urbino. The House of Aragon. Kings of Naples. The House of Colonna. Lords of Palestrina. Bentivoglio coat of arms. Baglioni coat of arms. Malatesta coat of arms. Petrucci coat of arms, Siena. The House of Bentivoglio. Lords of Bologna. The House of Baglioni. Lords of Perugia. The House of Malatesta. Lords of Rimini. The House of Petrucci. Lords of Siena. The House of Este. Characters: the Borges Fanwiki. The Este, Vicars of Ferrara. The noble Este, denoted as d'Este, family ruled Ferrara and Modena as vicars of the Holy Roman Empire, and later the papacy. The dukes gradually asserted and protected their independence from the empire over the centuries. The Este were culturally refined, wise and capable rulers, and revered by their subjects. The most famous member of the House of Este is Isabella d'Este, Marchesa of Mantua. She married Francesco II Gonzaga, a powerful condottiero and ruler of a mostly independent city-state in Lombardy. She was known to be a capable diplomat and firm ruler during her husband's many long absences. Even this highly cultured Renaissance family had their share of brutal inter-family rivalries and murders. In 1505, Lucrezia Borgia's husband, Duke Alfonso I d'Este, was very nearly murdered by his own half-brothers Giulio and Ferrante d'Este. Giulio and Ippolito fell in love with Lucrezia's cousin Angela Borgia. Angela preferred Giulio, and later, for many reasons, Ippolito had assassins stab him in both eyes. They were punished by the Duke Alfonso, leading Giulio and the fourth brother Ferrante to plot the murder of Alfonso and usurpation of the throne for Ferrante. They did not succeed. Alfonso imprisoned them in the castle dungeons for the rest of their lives. Lucas's son Ercole II married Renee de France, younger daughter of King Louis XII and Anne of Brittany. Page logo. The House of Sforza. Characters: the Borgias fan wiki. The Condottieri Sforza of Milan. The noble house of Sforza had relatively humble origins. Their forefathers were rich rural landowners and successful condottieri, whom alternately fought for Milan, Venice, Naples, against Florence and the Pope. Due to Musio's military capabilities and success in battle, he was later nicknamed Sforza, meaning force, and his descendants took his name. Francesco I Sforza married the only heir to the Milanese duchy, Bianca Maria Sforza. After the Visconti's demise, the short-lived Ambrosian Republic ruled Milan through a few years of warfare and internal unrest. Francesco, as captain general of the Milanese army, was given rule of the city by the Signoria. He was able to keep ruling the city and its vast territories without papal investiture due to his popularity and success as a ruler. Francesco and Bianca Maria Visconti had 8 children: Galzo Maria, Ippolito Maria, Filippo Maria, Sforza Maria, Ludovico Maria, Ascanio Maria, Elisabetta, and Ottaviano. Galzo, Duke of Milan in 1466, was assassinated in 1476, father of Caterina Sforza. Ippolita, married the Duke of Calabria, was a great friend of Il Magnifico Lorenzo de' Medici. Filippo Maria, Count of Corsica. Sforza Maria, Duke of Bari. Ludovico Maria was later given the Duchy of Bari upon his brother's death in 1479. Then was chosen as Duke of Milan after his nephew Gian Galzo's untimely death. Ascanio Maria was a powerful cardinal of the Roman Church, vice-chancellor of the Curia under Pope Alexander VI. The Duchy of Milan made up almost all of modern northwest Italy. It became a subject state of France after it fell during the Italian Wars led by the King of France, Louis XII. It later came under control of the Holy Roman Empire during the reign of Charles V after his victory in the Battle of Pavia. The House of Medici. The Medici, first citizens of Florence. Members of the merchant-class Medici family of Florence are also called the godfathers of the Renaissance. The Medici Bank was the most profitable bank in Europe during the Renaissance. The maker of the family fortunes was Giovanni di Bisi de' Medici, and his son Cosimo de' Medici became the first citizen of the city. He spent 600,000 florins on beautifying Florence and was patron of artists such as Donato and Francis Lippi. The Medici created a partnership with the Catholic Church. When the church was split due to the Western Schism, the Medici backed Pope John XXIII and subsequently became the papal bankers. Cosimo's grandson, Lorenzo the Magnificent, 1449–1492, was a keeper of the peace in Italy, spreading his influence across the peninsula so that it enjoyed a decade of relative peace. He was also a patron of the arts, with such people as Botticelli, Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci flooding his courts. Pope Leo X, Giovanni de' Medici, 1475–1521, papacy from 1513 to 1521, was known for his extravagant lifestyle. He once had a boy painted in gold from head to toe parading down the streets of Florence. It was to imply the return of the Golden Age under Medici rule. The boy later died as a result of probably lead poison from the gold paint. Pope Clement VII, Giulio de' Medici, 1478–1534, papacy from 1522 to 1234, took a black slave girl as his mistress. Their child Alessandro became Europe's first black head of state when he was made Duke of Florence in 1530. Alessandro was assassinated by his cousin Lorenzo, Bad Lorenzo, de' Medici. It was under the reign of Leo X that Martin Luther nailed his famous 95 Theses that sparked a growing movement later known as the Protestant Reformation. The powerful families of Renaissance Italy, the Borgias Wiki. Leo reportedly said, "God has seen fit to give us the papacy, now let us enjoy it." The House of Gonzaga. The Gonzaga, imperial vicars of Mantua. The noble family of Gonzaga ruled Mantua as marquises, marquesi in Italian, which was one administrative rank below duke. The first Gonzaga rulers of Mantua were podestas, high-ranking government officials, who were later elected as captains of the people as protectors of the city's defense. Their 14th-century Ghibelline ties to the Holy Roman Empire, as vassals ruling on the behalf of the emperor, effectively left the city and its territory independent of the major powers in Italy. The first Marquis, Gianfrancesco I and his wife Paola Malatesta, arranged the advantageous marriage of the emperor's niece, some sources list her as his granddaughter, Barbara of Brandenburg, to their son Ludovico III Gonzaga. Their son and successor to the lordship, Federico I, married the daughter of Duke Albert III of Bavaria, Margaret of Bavaria. Their children were, Chiara, Francesco II, above at right, Sigismundo, Elisabetta, right, Maddalena, and Giovanni. Chiara married a Bourbon duke. Their son was the famous Charles III, Duke of Bourbon, who commanded the imperial troops during the sack of Rome, 1527. Francesco married Isabella d'Este, later to be known as the First Lady of the World. Elisabetta married Guidobaldo, later the Duke of Urbino. The Gonzagas ruled Mantua with a firm hand and contributed to its cultural flowering during the Renaissance. The House of Montefeltro. The Montefeltro family of Urbino. The city was alternately a Ghibelline and Guelph city. The ancient family has ruled Urbino since 1267, as imperial officials, podestas, of the city. First the city and its territories were ruled by pro-papal lords, then again independent. 1353 marks the time from which the Montefeltro permanently owed its allegiance to the papacy, as Pope Innocent VI, from Avignon, was consolidating the fragmented and war-torn states of the Church. Urbino once more came under the control of the Holy See. Nulfo's grandson, Antonio, 1377–1403, took advantage of the rebellion of the Marche and Umbria against the Holy See, 1375, to restore his authority in Urbino. Guide Antonio, 1403–1443, was appointed ruler of the Duchy of Spoleto by Pope Martin V, 1419, and carried on war against Braccio de Montoni with varying fortune. His son, Otto Antonio, was assassinated after only a few months in power. The Urbinese then offered the lordship to Federico III, 1444–1482, the illegitimate son of Guide Antonio, a pupil of Vitrino de Felder's school and a lover of art. Under him Urbino became a cultural center of the Renaissance. He was a successful condottiero in the wars against the Malatesta for control of Rimini, the Pope, René of Anjou, and Florence for neighboring lands. Pope Sixtus IV conferred on him the title of Duke of Urbino, 1474. The benevolent rule of Federico's son Guidobaldo was forever marred by the conquests of Cesare Borgia. The House of Aragon. The Kingdom of Naples was ruled by the Royal House of Aragon, between 1442–1501, denoted in Italy by the surname d'Aragona. The royal family derives from the House of Trastamara, the ruling family of Aragon, Castile, and Leon. The most famous members are the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile. They would battle France for possession of Naples during the Borgia period. The Neapolitan House of Aragon derived from the first Aragonese king of Naples, Alfonso V the Magnanimous. Known in Neapolitan monarch lists as Alfonso I, King of Naples, He was also king of the Crown of Aragon, which included the Kingdom of Aragon proper, roughly northeastern Spain, Valencia, Majorca, Sardinia, Corsica, and Sicily. He conquered Naples in 1442. Alfonso's Spanish lands were ruled by his brother John II of Aragon, which were later willed to him. When Alfonso died, his illegitimate son Ferdinand I/Ferrante, pictured above at above right, received Naples and Sicily. Ferrante ruled Naples long and with a firm hand against numerous baronial uprisings, clashes with the papacy, and threat of French invasion. His son Alfonso II of Naples, Duke of Calabria, pictured at right, succeeded him as King of Naples in 1494. He ruled for 1 year before abdicating and leaving the throne to his young son Ferdinand II of Naples, Ferrantino. Ferdinand II of Aragon, King of Spain, and Ferrante I, King of Naples, were cousins. Ferdinand's father was John II of Aragon, and Ferrante's father was John's brother, Alfonso the Magnanimous. The House of Orsini. The Orsini, powerful Roman barons. The Orsini family is one of the most celebrated princely families in medieval Italy and Renaissance Rome. The family has a number of popes, Celestine III, Nicholas III, and Benedict XIII, 34 cardinals, and scores of condottieri. One of the most famous was Gentile Virginio Orsini, head of the Bracciano branch of the family. The Orsini were traditional enemies of the Colonna family, who also produced numerous popes, cardinals, and condottieri. The Orsini owned fine and well-fortified castles in Lazio and around Rome. The biggest is Bracciano, on Lake Bracciano outside of Rome, Olzano, Abruzzi, Nerola, near Rome, Sant'Angelo Romano, near Rome, Soriano nel Cimino, Viterbo, and Vassano, Viterbo. The Orsini married into nearly every noble house in central and southern Italy. For example, Lorenzo de' Medici was married to a Roman Orsini, of the Monterotondo line. To enhance his family's prestige, they were considered upstarts. She brought an enormous dowry to Florence. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Orsini was also of this line. The Orsini were closely aligned with the Kingdom of Naples, and were powerful feudal lords-barons in and around Naples as well as Rome. Taranto was a seat of Orsini power when it was given to the southern line of the family after the defeat of Queen Joanna II of Naples. The House of Colonna. The Colonna, powerful Roman barons. The Colonna family was a powerful noble papal family, Guelph, of medieval Italy and Renaissance Rome, supplying one pope and many other leaders. Their family is notable for their bitter feud with the Orsini, above, family over influence in Rome until it was stopped by papal bull in 1511. In 1297 the Colonna family, who had owned Praeneste, by then called Palestrina, from the 11th century as a fief, revolted from the pope. In the following year the town was taken by papal forces, razed to the ground and salted by order of Pope Boniface VIII. In 1437 the rebuilt city was captured by the papal general Giovanni Vitelleschi and once more utterly destroyed at the command of Pope Eugenius IV. It was rebuilt once more and fortified by Stefano Colonna in 1448. It was again sacked in 1527, and occupied by the Duke of Alba, in 1556. Prospero, who had joined Cardinal Giuliano della Rovere's party, was imprisoned in Castel Sant'Angelo by Pope Alexander VI. Once freed, he was soon imprisoned again for his allegiance to Charles VIII of France during his invasion of Italy in 1494. Prospero Colonna had an important role in the Spanish victory at Cerignola, 1503, which gave Spain the keys to Naples. After Alexander VI's death, he was also able to take back his territories in the Lazio. Other important members of the Colonna family are famous noblewoman and poet Vittoria Colonna, friend of Michelangelo, Marcantonio and Fabrizio Colonna, Successful condottieri. The house of Bentivoglio. The noble Bentivoglio of Bologna. The Bentivoglio ruled the important Romagna city and environs of Bologna from 1401 until 1506. They were a princely family allegedly descended from Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II, through one of his illegitimate sons, Enzio, King of Sicily. During the Guelph and Ghibelline conflicts, 14th century, they overthrew rival factions for control of the city with the help of their powerful allies, the Visconti. The Bentivoglio held power on and off for the next 25 years when finally the family received the fief of Castel Bolognese, a fortified city not far from Bologna. Giovanni II at right ruled with his strong-willed wife Ginevra Sforza. Together they had 11 children and married many of them into the nobility of central Italy. The House of Bagliani. The Bagliani were successful and wealthy condottieri who exercised rule over the city of Perugia from the 1420s. Gianpaolo Bagliani, 1470–1520, fought against Cesare Borgia on behalf of the Varano family in an attempt to regain Camerino in 1500. After contracting with Venice then the Pope, in 1520 he was accused of an attempted assassination in Rome. Bagliani was imprisoned in Castel Sant'Angelo and beheaded. The Bagliani had always fought with the Oddi family for the rule of Perugia in the region of Umbria. They rose to power in the 13th century. They amassed a fortune from the money earned from their condottieri ventures. Each Bagliani had their own palaces in the best part of town and built towers to show off their wealth. Murders, violence and rivalry as commonplace under Bagliani rule, either with the challenging Oddi family or with each other. They massacred the family in 1482 and 1484. In 1500, at a wedding celebration, half of the Bagliani killed the other half. It was called the Red Wedding and now is what the Bagliani is famous for. The massacre caused many acts of vengeance within the Bagliani family. Gianpaolo Bagliani served under Cesare Borgia as a condottieri. He was one of those generals not killed at Senigallia by Cesare. Later he fought for the great powers of Italy, including Pope Julius II, Venice. They fell from power in the 17th century, selling their power and titles. Click on upper right image for a larger view at right. Paolo Bagliani depicting family members as figures in the Deposition of Christ, Raphael. The House of Malatesta. The Malatesta family of Rimini. The House of Malatesta was an Italian family that ruled Rimini from 1295 until 1500, as well as, in different periods, other lands and towns in Romagna. Malatesta de Veruscio, d. 1312, a Guelph leader, became podesta, chief magistrate, of Rimini in 1239 and made himself sole master of the city after the expulsion of the family's Ghibelline rivals, the Parsitati, in 1295. His hunchback son Giovanni Malatesta is chiefly famous because of the 1285 tragedy, recorded in Dante's Inferno, when he killed his wife Francesca da Polenta and his younger brother Paolo, having discovered them in adultery. In the 14th and 15th centuries, the Malatesta ruled over a number of papal cities in the Romagna and the Marche, including Pesaro, Fano, Cesena, Fossombrone, and Servia. Several Malatesta were condottieri at the service of various Italian states. The most famous was Sigismondo Pandolfo Malatesta, above right, who was engaged in conflict with the papacy over territorial claims. His grandson Pandolfo, lower right, took part in the Battle of Fornovo, and later besieged the French garrison at Novara. Pandolfo's violence and murders gained him the hatred of his subjects. In 1497, a failed rape attempt on a young girl spurred a revolt in Rimini, which he could suppress only with Venetian intervention. He escaped another plot in 1498. 2 years later, Cesare Borgia invaded Pandolfo's territories and Pope Alexander VI, Cesare's father, excommunicated him. Rimini was finally incorporated in the Papal States in 1528, after the last failed attempt of Pandolfo's son, Sigismundo. The House of Petrucci. The Petrucci family of Siena. Antonio Petrucci led an unsuccessful attempt to seize power from the Republican government in 1456. He was forced into exile as a result of the failed coup. The remaining family gradually reinforced their land and wealth, and by the 1480s had considerable influence in Siena once again. Pandolfo Petrucci, called Il Magnifico for his extensive patronage of the arts, foundations, and grand civic and religious building projects in Siena. He took power in 1487 by means of a gradual series of civil and military coups. He married Agnese Borghese, daughter of a prominent and wealthy member of the oligarchy. He assumed public offices, and appointed members of his faction to others. Most importantly, he had the support of the armed city guard. As their captain, he also became the protector of the populace. His heir Borgia was intent on eliminating the Petrucci, as they were the main obstacle to the conquest of Siena. After the fall of Urbino, July 1502, it seemed to Caesar's captains that the next action of the Borgia would have been against Perugia and then against Siena and Bologna. The growing fear of Caesar's power and the double dealing of his condottieri, who feared Caesar would overrun their cities as well, led to the so-called Magan conspiracy, from the name of the castle of Giambattista Orsini, cardinal, whose aim was to eliminate Il Valentino. By not appearing personally at the conference at La Magan, Pandolfo Petrucci, being more astute and foresaw the effects of the conspiracy, escaped the clutches of the Borgia and maintained his rule at Perugia.